Hello everyone, back with another video. So 2020 is finally over after one hell of a year. So what am I going to do to celebrate it? Well, many things, but one of them is going to be ranking every film that I saw in 2020. By this, I'm not saying I'm going to be ranking every new film I saw, like I saw Pirates of the Caribbean for the first time this year. That's not going to count. I mean something like every film that I saw that was released either in theaters or on streaming this year. I saw 6 movies this year, which is honestly really surprising considering the fact that last year I saw so many movies. I did a whole video that had 8 movies in it, just ranking the Disney stuff, but this year I only saw 6 movies entirely, which is pretty surprising, but hey, that's just 2020 being 2020, I guess. Also, no, I'm not going to be using trailer footage, I'm just going to be using terrible human fall flat gameplay where my friends and I mess around because I don't want to get the trailer footage because I'm too lazy and because I'm working on bigger projects, so I don't want to use the storage up in my phone. Alright, so let's get into this. Alright, so easily coming in last place is the Mulan live-action remake. Do I really have to explain why this movie's bad? Everyone knows that it's bad. Everyone knows this movie's just complete and utter shit. I do not know a single person who genuinely likes this movie and thinks it's good. I mean, seriously. Now, you guys know I like the first one quite a bit. I haven't made a video talking about it. But this one is so bad. I mean, seriously, this film introduces something called a chi power, which is one of the most retarded things I've ever seen in a Disney live-action remake. Is it different? Yes. But is it stupid? Yes. It is a very dumb change, because what this film is saying is that Mulan doesn't get through everything that she does through, her wit, her creativity, and being able to get out of situations through her nice thinking. No, she gets through all that because of the fucking chi power. Basically saying she doesn't earn anything that she does. She is basically a superhero. I mean, do you want proof that she's a superhero? Fine. She literally kicks an arrow into the main villain's chest to kill him. That's the level of lunacy that this fucking film has. Also, the acting for Mulan is so bland, it puts me to tears. It's not even funny. Like, it honestly just makes me want to cry myself to sleep. Now, the action itself is also not very good. I mean, there's a point where they're like trying to kidnap the emperor, and there are so many cuts that it seriously, it looks like the film doesn't even know what the hell is going on. So it's just cutting to cut out a bunch of stuff that is happening. That way we cannot tell what is happening. I mean, it's honestly so fast that it gives me an aneurysm. This part isn't scripted because the Mulan remake doesn't deserve my respect to be scripted. Like, I seriously forgot about this film until I had started thinking about this video. I mean, so much so that in my 2020 video that I made a few weeks ago, I seriously forgot to tell you guys that I watched that film. I mentioned I only watched like 3 films, but I forgot to include a Mulan, which is just hilarious. I mean, I seriously forgot that I watched this movie, and the fact that they took what is one of the best Disney films and made me completely forget about it is honestly insulting. I mean, I didn't think I'd want to say this, but this Mulan is a Mary Sue. I'm not one who normally goes around pointing fingers at characters, unless that's Captain Marvel, of course. And I don't usually like to call characters Mary Sues unless I believe it's completely justified. Like, I wouldn't call Rey a Mary Sue. I wouldn't. But Mulan is easily a Mary Sue. I don't understand how you can even say she isn't. She basically never fails, and she is just overpowered as shit and able to do pretty much everything herself and doesn't need anyone around her. There's literally a point in the film where she takes off her armor and willingly reveals herself as a woman, which is stupid. I mean, in the first one, or in the original, it was through a matter of circumstances because she was injured. But here she chose to because no reason. I mean, she took off her armor, even though previously someone chucked a ninja star at her, and that armor was the only thing that saved her, yet for some reason she took it off. Why? It's treated as a heroic moment, so it's not like it's a flaw for being stupid or something. It's just something dumb in the movie. I mean, like, how the hell is this movie so fucking dumb? There's much more wrong, but I don't want to talk about this film, to be honest. I just want to get it over with. Please, I want to end my suffering, and I never want to talk about this movie ever again. I'm sorry it wasn't scripted, but this film does not deserve my respect. Coming up next is Onward. Now, don't get me wrong, this is overall a pretty good film. We're jumping quite a bar from the shitfest that is the Mulan. But I have some problems with Onward, and the themes for me just aren't that compelling either. Now, don't get me wrong, this film has a fantastic world. It has some of the best world building possibly I've ever seen in a Pixar film. But the thing is, the journey itself was kinda meh. I mean, it was fine, but that's what it was, just fine. I found the Chris Pratt character, why he had a compelling thing with his father and how he walked out in the hospital because he didn't want to see his dad. He was overall mostly annoying. I mean, he had, again, some really good character, but I just felt like they took his whole screw up deal way too far. I'm not trying to script this part either, mostly because I just don't really care about this movie. I mean, again, the journey was fine. I felt like the ending itself was actually really good. I mean, the themes just weren't as compelling for me because I didn't grow up with only a mother, and I didn't grow up like without a father or anything. So I felt the themes weren't as compelling for me as they were for some other people. But I still enjoyed Onward. I mean, I liked how the spells were used. I thought they were used pretty nicely, and again, the world was pretty nice. And I wouldn't mind a sequel Onward in this world because this is a really good Pixar world in my opinion. Coming up next, we have Birds of Prey. Now, this movie I still like a lot, and I mean a lot. I still really enjoy the action scenes in this, and the film has a great pace, always being entertaining and never really letting up, even in some of its other scenes that are not action filled or are kind of meant for more story purposes. In my opinion, it's able to keep up the feminist energy, yet never feeling too in your face. Also, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, in my opinion, was utter perfection. Like, she was built for Harley Quinn. She was born to be Harley Quinn. I seriously can't imagine anyone else in a role, and I also enjoyed everyone else in the roles they were in. Specifically, Huntress, I thought she had a really, really intriguing backstory. I do have a couple criticisms though, such as I feel like a lot of the characters had really intriguing backstories, but I wish they focused more on them. And this film feels like it should have been like 2 hours, 30 minutes to 3 hours, but instead it just hit 2 hours instead. Also, I feel like some of the action scenes, while yes, they were very good, one of them in particular, when there was like sprinklers going off, it like only two people would attack like when at a time like it was a video game in waves, which was very weird and kind of poorly choreographed. However, all the action scenes each have something special about them. That one had sprinklers going off, another one had like confetti, and another one was in a fun house, which gives each action scene their own unique style, which makes them each memorable. Also, the entire Birds of Prey team doesn't really get together until the end, which is pretty disappointing as I feel like they all kind of work well off each other. Anyway, yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about this film. I still really like it, and I think it's very good. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. I don't really do scores in these rankings, but I'm just telling you guys what I'd give it now, considering the fact it's been almost a year since I made my original Birds of Prey video. And I even might go back to defending this film because I kind of stopped for a while. Coming up next is the LEGO Star Wars Holiday Special. Some may say that this doesn't count as a film because it's only like 40 minutes, but guess what? I do not care. So yeah, I really like this. First thing I really like is Rey. This is honestly my favorite portrayal of Rey, unironically. I genuinely really liked Rey in this and her struggle about how she can't teach Finn and how she needs to learn that masters and apprentices are more than just master and apprentice. They're also friends. This is the case with like Obi-Wan and Anakin and Ahsoka and all that. Also, even though this throws a lot of dad jokes at us, it's able to put in OT references, sequel trilogy references, and prequel trilogy references that will make pretty much everyone laugh, and this film has pretty much something for everyone. Again, whether you're a sequel fan, prequel fan, OT fan, or if you're a fan of two of them, or if you're a fan of every single one of them. Also, this feels like a natural continuation from the Rise of Skywalker with Rey training Finn, and again, Finn training to be a Jedi makes me so happy. As I believe that he deserved to be a Jedi, and I thought it was very unfortunate that we didn't get that in the Rise of Skywalker. So him being one here is very, very satisfying for me. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. I mean, there's not much to this movie. It's just overall really funny in my opinion. And obviously, there were plenty of criticism you can give how something doesn't make a lot of sense. But I feel like it's not fair to hold it up to the same standards as something like the other 9 Star Wars movies. Obviously, some of the humor did fall a little flat for me, and also I feel like some stuff was kind of weird. But I found this film really cute and charming, and I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't already. Coming in third place is going to be Wonder Woman 1984. Alright, so yeah, I really like this film as well. First thing is, I actually really like Diana's arc and how it's about, like, letting stuff go. Because in the first one, her arc was kind of weird, in my opinion. But here it's much better and much more fleshed out and much less weird. Also, the cinematography in this film is also really good, and it's able to keep up the good pace, and it never really feels like it's dragging in any scenes, except for one, which is that stupid, like, Steve putting on clothes scene, but I think it's the only scene I can think of that really drags, but it's not a huge issue. Also, I really like how we get to see more of Themyscira and their cultures in the opening scene, and I think it's overall, some of the action in here is definitely pretty cool, especially my favorite action scene being the one at the mall. And also, despite being taken place in 1984, it doesn't go extremely heavy on the references and uses its time period to its advantage. I do have a couple issues with this movie though. First off, the action in the final battle against Cheetah is probably one of the lamest action scenes I've ever seen in a 21st century comic book movie. And the film is extremely contrived, especially how that whole cart chase action scene begins. Also, this film's entire existence just doesn't make any sense because Wonder Woman says in Justice League that 100 years ago she walked away from mankind, yet she yet this movie is literally taking place in 1984. However, one of my criticisms of Wonder Woman in the DCEU was that she couldn't fly. However, here this fixes that when she learns to fly, which is one of, if not my favorite scenes in the entire film. Also, Max Lord, the villain, I found to be really compelling, and how he was just kind of compelled by that weird crystal thing, and I liked his humanity and how, eventually by the end he just wanted to take care of his son. But onto criticisms, Barbara is just not a very compelling character. She's a blank slate. That's literally all she is. She's like the definition of a typical nerd that you'd see in a movie, and it's very boring. Anyways, it's kind of all I have to say. I don't have a whole lot to say about this movie, since I do kind of want to save that for a review. Coming in second place is gonna be Disney Pixar's Soul. Now, yeah, I really like this film as well. I first off adored the main character being Joe. He has a lot of personality to him, and I love how his thing he wants to do in most, like the thing he thinks he wants to do in most in life is just pursue music. You can see he's truly passionate about it, and then when he meets O2, I think is what her name is, that's when a lot of it is truly challenged when he shows her the joys of life. And through that, he learns that there's more to life than just music. He learns that's about connections with people, and this leads to my favorite scene in the film. The scene where he's playing the piano and just reflecting on what truly life is. And when he realized he was living it without realizing at the time, it was Pixar's finest. It was seriously peak Pixar, and what Pixar always does best at. It's one of my favorite scenes in all of the Pixar films, and I wish the film just ended there, because that would have been such a perfect conclusion. Unfortunately, it didn't, and this leads to my only problem with the film being the actual climax. Don't get me wrong, it was okay, just not nearly as good and as powerful as what the climax would have been if it just left off on that scene of him reflecting on his life. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about Soul. I still really like this movie, and yeah, I mean, I kind of want to save it for a review as well. I want to do a review of this movie as well. Coming in first place is gonna be Invisible Man. Yup, I still love this movie. Even after almost a year of seeing it, the first film I saw in 2020 is still my favorite, and I would even go as far as to say the best. I haven't seen every single film to come out this year, not even close, but I really loved Invisible Man, and I still do. I want to get the stuff I didn't like out of the way first. First off, in that whole house fight, there was this weird thing where when the invisible guy would pick up our main character, it would make this weird noise that sounded like the Prowler noise from Into the Spider-Verse, which felt really out of place. Also, when the Invisible Man hit Sydney in the back of the head, she stupidly blamed our main character, even though she was nowhere near Sydney, and also she never moved her arm, so I don't understand why Sydney thought that it was her. It just didn't make much sense and made Sydney seem pretty stupid, and it felt like something that you see in a typical bad Invisible Man horror movie. However, I love everything else. My favorite scene of the film is easily the opening scene, as it does such a good job at building the atmosphere and how damn terrifying our main character truly is, and even though we haven't seen anything, it makes us terrified as well with the great atmosphere and tension that it does indeed build. I mean, we seriously jump whenever we hear even the slightest of noise. Also, the ending was extremely satisfying and also one of my favorite scenes, probably my second favorite scene, and I loved it. And it seriously put a huge, huge smile on my face. Also, all the characters are lovable and they all have really nice scenes together, which really helps us build a loving and caring relationship for them. And you can see that they all do indeed care each other and they're treated as real people, which is really nice for a movie like this. And it really helps with everything that happens in the movie, and it always gave me tension whenever the Invisible Man was on screen. This movie is also able to build up some great scares, and I love a lot of little details in the film, such as when our main character checks her phone, checks the phone of the Invisible Man. You can see like a bunch of weird things as the background, and it's actually the cameras of the suit that the Invisible Man uses to be invisible. And that reminds me that this film is able to be very grounded and almost realistic with the way that the suit is made. Instead of being like a regular old potion, it's actually a suit out of technology, which makes sense considering the Invisible Man's background with business and all that. And yeah, it's overall just a really great film that I highly recommend you watch, especially if you are a fan of horror. Anyways, yeah, Invisible Man came in first place, so yeah, as you guys can tell, it is easily my favorite movie of 2020. And with the conclusion of that, that is also going to be the conclusion of this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. I'm so happy that 2020 is finally over, as it has been a rocky year for pretty much everyone, for more reasons than one. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it is always appreciated and does indeed help us. Also, make sure to leave me down your favorite movies of 2020, or rank every one that you saw if you haven't seen that many films this year like me. Anyway, that's going to be the first video. Hope you guys enjoy, like, subscribe, and share, and goodbye.